All right, so now we're ready for our next project. So you can close down your video. Don't close After Effects yet. Just close your video. Yeah. No, you're good. All right, so now we want to start on our next project. So remember when we started this first project, what was the first thing we did? Yep, copy the template project. So open up your Internet Explorer, your Explorer, not Internet Explorer, and then control copy your template project and then rename it. So these ones will be page transitions. Okay, and then inside of your page transitions folder, you should rename that template one to Page Transitions 01. And then on these computers, never double click your After Effects files to open them. There's two versions of After Effects on these computers. So if you double click it, it could open the wrong version and then you're working in the wrong version of After Effects. Okay? So every project we do, we're going to copy that template, rename it, go into that file, rename that file, and then we will go into After Effects and then just open up that project file. Okay, remember the reason that we did that is just because it just creates a nice way for us to keep organized all the time. Make sure, yep, good, okay. All right, so we're gonna go into After Effects, and in order to do anything in After Effects, we need to make a composition. The last project we did, we had one composition, everything was inside that composition. This one we'll be creating a new composition for each effect. Each one of these page transitions is meant to be a quick thing, okay? So we're looking at about 3 seconds for this whole thing to be done. So not very long. It's gonna come in, it's gonna go away, like that quick, like boom, gone. So we're gonna make our very first one, which is a basic one, so make a new composition. Again, get used to those hotkeys, Control-N for new composition. And you just call it Page Transition Basic 01. Make sure you're naming your stuff, make sure you're staying organized. By the time you're done, you may have 15 different page transitions. Once you get the concept, they go very quickly, okay? In this class, we have like 2 hours left of this class. I could probably make like 50 page transitions within the time we have left. That's how quick these things are, okay? Page Transition Basic 01, 960 by 540, that's our resolution. Square pixels, 30 frames per second. Our duration should be how long? 3 seconds, so 300. Okay, so make sure that duration, not time code, is 300. You go back up to the composition, you go to composition settings. Okay, so if you accidentally screwed up like Josh did, then you go back there and you type in the right number. Okay, so now we have 3 seconds. That's how long our stuff is going to be for all of these. So then we'll come over to where we have our project and we'll drop our composition into the composition folder because that's where he belongs. Okay, so now that composition is inside here. You have to name these because by the time you're done, you're going to be picking your best 5 and that's what you're going to be turning in. What you don't want to do, because we will have 5, let's say we have 10 main ones, you may have 3 other ones that are supporting those main ones. So we have to make sure they're organized to make sure that we have, this is the final one, this is the final one, not another one, which you'll see once we get there. All right, so we need to create something that we can just swipe onto the screen. So how did we create something before? New solid. So layer, new solid. Oops, make sure I'm clicked in it. Or hotkey is Control-Y. Okay, and you can call this one starter or whatever. Call it something so it's relevant. Pick a decent color to start with. I would recommend whatever color you pick, go either very dark, not black, but very dark with it, or go very light with it. What you'll find with the page transitions is that we want to go one direction with the color. So we want to go increasingly dark or increasingly light, whichever one you want to do. Okay? Don't go in the middle because then it's different. All right, so I'm going to go with a dark purpley kind of color. No, I won't. I will actually slide this over to like blue. That's better. That's better. Okay, so I went with a dark blue color. 960, 540, starter. Perfect. Okay. All right. Remember, we can change the colors later so we don't have to be locked into the color. All right, so now we want to animate this thing going from the left side of the screen, like off screen, back to on screen. So if you remember how to do that, go ahead and do it. If you don't remember, then I will walk you through it. I'm going to hit position. I'm at the start. I'm going to click my stopwatch. I'm going to go up to about 7 frames and scoot that off. It's going to scoot off, because I'm going to show you how we can reverse it. All right, so now we have simple animation, just boop, it goes off screen. Now, obviously, I said we want this to start blank and then have something come on to screen and then go off. So when this is black, this is actually transparent. Okay, so we don't actually see anything here, or we see black, but After Effects sees this, just transparency. Okay, so if we want to adjust these keys, just get comfortable with just grabbing them down here and moving them where you want. And knowing like, okay, this keyframe right here is with the item off screen, and this keyframe right there is with the item on screen. So I'm not even considering like what the times are for this. I kind of moved it to about 7 also. But just kind of reposition it, hit play, and see if that feels good, just kind of like swiping into the screen. Okay, yours might be 7, might be 8. It should be at least 7 or 8. It should not be 20 because that's like way too long for a page transition to pop in for this kind of thing. Okay. Now you could also, let's pretend that I had a crazy complex animation. I could grab all the keyframes, right click, and then inside the options here, there's something that says time reverse. So that will actually swap the keyframes for me. So if I had a bunch of keyframes animated, I could grab all of them and say time reverse, and it'll just swap them automatically for me. So I don't have to worry about dragging this one and then dragging that one. Okay? So that's another way to do that. All right, so we have our basic keyframes. There's nothing on the screen, and then there's something on the screen. What's our next step? What was that? Easy ease, right? So we grab our stuff. You can hit F9. I have to right click and go to Easy Ease. Okay, make sure you grab the keyframes. Quick way to grab them too, if you have trouble marqueing them, click the word position and it'll grab them for you. And then you do your Easy Ease. And then we go to the graph editor. Make sure we're on the speed graph. We can zoom in. And then you get to choose, again, which direction you want this to go. Fast at the beginning or slow at the beginning. Fast at the end or slow at the end. I go the other way.
How do you ensure that you're on the speed graph?
Yeah. If it's white, you're on the speed graph. Then you're on this one. Does it look like that? Yeah. Yep. Right click right in the graph, and then change it to speed graph. F9. So just a spoiler alert, this works better if the speed happens right at the beginning and there's a little bit of a lag at the end. You can do it either way, but it just looks better when it looks like that. Great. You'll notice with this one too, we didn't do any like timing things out. With this kind of thing, you really wouldn't need to time out this specific transition because we don't have anything that's going to be going with at the moment. So all of these are just like uniform, just like boom, 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 it's done kind of things. Okay, so that looks, like I said, great. Now what we want to do is we want to duplicate this so that we have more of these, right? So I want to have an actual transition. So all I'm going to do is just hit Control D 4 times with the layer selected. Okay, so then we should have how many copies?
4 total, but
Yes. That's a trick question. All right, so now we have 4 items on top of that first one that we created, and it looks pretty much exactly the same, like exactly the same. So what we need to do is we need to offset each one of these, and we're literally only going to offset each one like 2 frames or 1 frame, okay? Now, the more advanced ones, the more designed ones would have, let's say at the very beginning, a 3-frame offset, and then a 2-frame offset, and then a 1-frame offset, just like kind of like a trickly down thing. But for now, just offset each one of these layers uniformly. So I'm going to go to my very bottom layer and just scoot it over 2 clicks. And then go to the next layer and scoot that over 4 clicks, and then 6 clicks, and then 8 clicks. You can't see the animation happen because they're all the same color. So then you'll go to whichever one you want to start with, and you'll hit Control-Shift-Y. Remember, stretch your finger out so you can do it with one hand. And then you can choose your colors. Now remember, number 1 or number 5 is going to be your darkest, the other one will be your lightest, and then the other colors will be in the middle. So if number 1 is my lightest, I'm going to go to number 1's brightness and just crank it all the way up. Then I'm going to go to the next one, go to the brightness, and then crank it almost all the way up. And then go to the next one, this. All right, so that gives us our first transition on. There it is. So now we want to obviously animate this going off as well, right? So otherwise, what are we doing? We want it to come on and then go off. So what we're going to do is if we open up our keyframes, we can't do this. Copy the keyframes and then paste them because it just copies and pastes everything. That doesn't work. But if I do one of these, I can basically paste it wherever. And because they're all exactly the same, I can paste them on each one of them. Now what we don't want to do is that. We don't want to do this animation where they come in and then they go off in the same direction. Whatever direction they come on, we want it to keep going off in that same direction. So basically, I want this to animate on like this. Hold maybe for like 2 frames, if that, and then go off in that same direction. So continuously going right, okay? So the way we could do that is that I could grab this. Now this is not how we're going to do it. I can grab this and keyframe it, then I can go up some amount and then scoot that one off. And then I can go up to the next one, and I could click a keyframe, oops, way back here, and then animate that one going off. And then I could say, oh, I want to have these offset too, so I need to offset these. I need to maybe move this so that this happens first, like that. And then I can play with my timing and all this other stuff. It's just like a waste of, it's like way too much work. So you just delete them. Just delete the stuff that we've already done in that. And we're going to set up one, duplicate it again, change the color again. And the reason we do that is that we can practice it. Okay? So we're going to animate it coming in, like that. Yep. So then we're going to keyframe it here, go up a little bit, it goes off. And then the only thing we're going to need to do is reduplicate it, and then offset the keyframes again.
So this is a new page transition?
Nope, this is the same one. So we're doing correct. And the reason we're doing that is for practice, because by the time you get done with this, you should be a whiz at setting keyframes, at changing your properties. at navigating around.
So are we deleting them and making new ones?
Yeah, delete all of them except for the bottom one. All right. So it does, wherever you're at, watch this. We'll do this again. Okay. All right, so here's where it is from the beginning of creating this. So it's off frame, or it's off the background. So I'm going to position keyframe this. I'm going to go up to about 7. Don't worry about typing that in. I mean, you can just do this. You know, just kind of eyeball it, it's about 7. And then it comes on about there. And then I have to easy ease it. I have to graph editor it. Okay, so this is what we had before, just that, okay? Now what I want to do is I want to have this, and this is a hair off, let me just get that over there. I want to have it stick here for a couple frames and then go off of there. Now when we do my duplicating, it's going to be like this. So my very last one is basically going to be the first one to move the second time. Okay? Because it's on top, it has to move first so I can see the one below it and the one below that and the one below that. Okay? So my keyframes when I'm done, these ones, the one that starts will be on the left and then it'll gradually come up and then it'll go the other way. Okay? So I'm going to leave a pretty big gap here. Even though it's going to be only 2 frames I'm holding between them, I'm anticipating for all the other layers that are above it. So I'm going to click the little icon here to set a position keyframe saying that I'm holding from these 2. So my animation goes here, there's a hold, and then I'm going to animate it going out. Whoops. Okay? So do that first, and then I'll walk you through again the duplicating process. All right, so once you have this set up, then the rest of this is going to be very similar to what we did before. So duplicating, offsetting the layer, and now what happens is, oh, mine's still the same color. So I'm going to change my colors. Yes, yes. Well, let me show you what I was talking about before with the color stuff. So whenever I choose colors, because my color choices are, you know, I'm not someone who can just go like, yeah, that's going to work perfectly with it. I'm not that guy. So what I do is I rely on these numbers here. And if I'm changing like the hue in this case, I will only change the hue. So I will leave it at this and just slide it down to, let's say, that. And then my next color, I will slide down further. And then my next color, come on, I will slide down further. And that way my colors are all somewhat related to each other because they all have the same saturation and value. So it just gives a more pleasant appeal, like that. Those are way too dark for this anyway, but ignore this step I'm doing. I'm just adding an adjustment layer just so you guys can see it better. Levels. There we go. That's much better colors. But because they're related to, I can still play with the saturation after the fact and a hue after the fact, just so that they're all nicely joined. Okay, so that's what we have so far. So they all come in. Now we see the individual colors coming in at the beginning. There's the dark bluish purple, the blue, the green, and then that color. But then at the end, all the other colors are gone. We only see that beige at the very end leaving. And the reason for that is because all my keyframes, these guys underneath have already left. So what I do is I figure out, okay, here's where the last one is. I need a couple frame hold, so boom, boom, couple frames. And then these keyframes should come here. And then however far I want to offset these ones, that's how far those are going to come. So if I had a 3-frame offset or a 4-frame offset, that's fine. You know, whatever I typically did here, you know, with the whole layer, I'm going to do here with just this one. So at the end, it'll look like a little like Christmas tree or a hill or a letter A or something. So it comes in and they go out. And I see all the colors. There's all the colors coming in. There's all the colors going out. So it makes it obviously more appealing to being able to see all the colors. And again, this is only a second and 1 frame for this transition. So it's pretty quick. And then of course we'd want motion blur on here and motion blur on here. So now it's going to look even better because all the colors blend together. Yeah. So you can see how simple that is. Sometimes you will see them with motion blur on here, and this is the effect that we're going to get. It's feathered from one to the other. Sometimes people have the motion blur off because they like that sharp look. They like the vectorized look. So just be aware that sometimes you will want that, sometimes you may not want that. Okay, and I said 3 seconds. Obviously mine is, just like I said, just over a second, okay? Which is fine. We just want to be aware of that it's longer than the actual time. Cool. So now we're going to go to project. We're going to go to composition, make a new composition. Page transition underscore basic underscore 02. Okay, so you're still in that same project. Just make a new composition called 02. 960 by 540, 30 frames per second. And then the same duration, 3 seconds. And then hit OK. For all of these ones, yeah. Right. It should be the same settings from the last one. Okay. So now what you're going to do is you're going to spend the rest of class doing that again. Get comfortable doing that exact same thing again and again and again. This isn't going to stop. Okay. Next class when we come in, we'll work on variations of this. But what you can do is you can already start the variation process because you've already seen how some of those are done. So in this case, we went from left to right, correct? Oh, dang it. It can go from right to left, top to bottom. You could also play with scale, okay? You can go diagonally if you want to. So you can I unlocked it, so you can take the scale in the center, and I'll put that at 0 here, and then I'll pick better colors because this orange is gross. Let's pick something there, a bit brighter. That's wonderful. Okay. So I'm going to scale this. I'm going to set a keyframe at the beginning. I'm going to go up some frames. I'm going to set this to 100. Knowing, again, I want to go here and then I want to go out, there's not really a good way for me to do scale a different direction. Okay, it's only one direction and then back to where it was. Okay, so I'm going to scale up and then I will scale back down. So I'm going to go up a couple frames, set my key, go up a couple frames, reset that to 0. I could go the other direction. Let's just try that for fun and see what that looks like. Okay, so now it goes like this. It goes and then stays and then goes the other way. Okay, wonderful. I'll easy ease these. I'll go to my speed graph. Oops, that is my speed graph. This one is red and green because I have 2 different values. The X of the scale is animated different than the Y of the scale. Okay, or they're animated. Like the other one, the Y really didn't move, so there really wasn't anything. It was just X sliding in, so it was just 1. So you just deal with it, okay? Yeah. So I just slide this over. Oops. Sometimes the things are on top of each other, so there we go. There we go. Wonderful. So let's just see what this looks like. Cool. All right, so then I would duplicate it. I would offset it. This part doesn't change. For any of the ones we're going to do, this part does not change. Pick different colors. I'm going to just pick a different color for every other one just so it's a little bit quicker for you to see. All right, so now we have this. Right, now we get the same thing. At the beginning, it looks cool. We get that neat effect. But then at the end, it just goes away. So I have to do that same setup of grabbing my keyframes and then offsetting them. Okay, so all of yours will pretty much look like little Christmas trees. Okay, very cool. Right, so that's one that I could do. I could also, I'll just delete that. I could also come in here with my rotate. I could move the pivot down to this corner and animate this thing rotating into frame. Okay, and just stacking rotate, 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 rotate on top of each other. And that way, again, I rotate in, I hold it for a couple frames, and then rotate out. Okay, so play with transform or position, play with rotation, and play with scale, doing that exact same thing. Okay, questions?